What's going on, guys? It's Tom, or Top 10 Wrestling, and today we're going to be talking about when a wrestler died on TNA Impact. This is a rare instance in wrestling where a company wrote off a character by killing them off in canon. The main way that a company usually, if they want to write off someone who's leaving, is they just do some big sort of injury angle or some sort of supernatural angle like TNA did with the Broken Hardys. But today we're talking about when TNA killed someone off. We have two instances to talk about today, the first of which involved a former WWE wrestler who was seemingly written off only to kind of somehow come back to life. And the other is when an AEW wrestler was written off for good via death and hasn't been seen in TNA since. Before we do get into it though, I'd like to thank my patrons Mickie D and Alan Barkley. I'm going to have some extended clips from this episode, some unseen exclusive stuff from this video on Patreon right now, so go check it out to see that, as well as more exclusive content. It would really help me out during these trying times and would be very appreciated. But let's not waste any more time and let's just get into it. Let's talk about the first moment in which a character was seemingly written off indefinitely, only to return a few weeks later. This involves Mickie James. Mickie James began making appearances for TNA in 2002 during the early days of the company when they were running weekly pay-per-views. She would make appearances there while she was also working in Ring of Honor, and her stock really began to rise, so much so that in 2003, WWE signed her and she was out the door for TNA. Of course, we all know how Mickie James' first run in the WWE went. She was a complete star and cemented herself as one of the greatest WWE women's wrestlers of all time. She feuded with the likes of Trish Stratus, in which she had one of the all-time great women's feuds, and she also feuded with Lita, Victoria, Beth Phoenix, Michelle McCool, just to name a few, who are obviously some of the best women's wrestlers WWE have ever had to offer. She was a multi-time women's champion, winning the women's championship 5 times and the Divas championship once, and she was the second woman in history to win both of those titles. However, on April 22nd, 2010, Mickie James was shockingly released from her contract. Just 3 months prior, Mickie was women's champion, she'd recently recovered from a staph infection, and she had also just got done with the awful Piggy James angle. The less said about that, the better. And of course, Mickie James would return to TNA later that year, and she would quickly cement herself as one of the top TNA knockouts. She debuted in September of that year and began feuding with Knockouts champion Madison Rayne and Tara. She would have singles matches on pay-per-view against them, both for the next few months, and pretty much just lost every single one. She straight up just lost every pay-per-view match against them. She would finally win the Knockouts title in April of the next year and hold it for a few months until she lost it to Winter. She would then win the title another 2 times after this until 2013, when she was out the door for TNA after the two parties failed to come to terms for a new contract. Mickie would spend the next 2 years on the indies, and then in 2015, she would make her return to TNA once again, making her return on January 30th, 2015. She would wrestle for a couple months until the April 24th Impact, where she announced she would be retiring from wrestling, and this is where we finally get to the story. Mickie James was then talked out of retirement by James Storm of all people, who talked her into having one more match. In previous weeks, James Storm, despite being a heel, had been looking out for Mickie, including saving her from a steel chair attack. However, this whole thing of him supporting Mickie was all a ruse, as it was all part of James Storm's plan to try and get Mickie to join his new stable, the Revolution. And here we go. On June 3rd, 2015, James Storm offered Mickie James to join the Revolution, and Mickie James rejected the offer. James Storm at first was very respectful about it, really understanding to Mickie James, because of course he's supporting Mickie James, he's a nice guy. They then went to a train station, and it shows security footage of them at the train station. This is where it gets kind of crazy. James then says to Mickie, "The train is pulling up," to which he then pushes Mickie onto the train track and we hear some train noises at the end as it cuts away. What just happened? So obviously the implication here is that James Storm has pushed Mickie James in front of a train track and the trains ran her over. This sparked a bit of controversy for TNA, and it got a lot of backlash from people because people obviously thought that Mickie James was just killed off by James Storm. Like I said, wrestlers being killed off is very rare in wrestling. The only major time someone has been written off indefinitely via a canon death before this in wrestling that I can think of was when Mr. McMahon's limo blew up, and even then he came back, and so did Mickie. She came back too. Despite the fact that Mickie James being run over by a train was heavily implied, on July 1st, 2015, Magnus came out and welcomed Mickie James back to the Impact Zone. Mickie James and Magnus then challenged James Storm to an intergender tag match, which took place on the July 29th episode of Impact, where Mickie James and Magnus defeated James Storm and Serena of Straight Edge Society fame, and Mickie hit James Storm with her finisher to end the feud and exit Impact for good. Gee whiz, that was an emotional roller coaster. Now let's talk about the second instance, because what if I told you there was an Impact knockout who did actually get killed off and isn't coming back? And what if I told you this happened last year to a wrestler who is now in AEW? Let's talk about Ali. So yeah, you might know Ali as the Bunny in AEW today, but before coming to AEW, she was in TNA/Impact Wrestling for a few years. She debuted in 2016, aligning herself with Sienna and Maria Kanellis, and it would only be a few months before she won her first Knockouts title, which she would only hold for a day. Great. She would win the Knockouts title again, this time about a year and a half later in January 2018, where this time she held it for a good 4 months, before losing it on May 31st to Su Yung. At Bound for Glory 2018, Ali entered into the Undead Realm to save Kiera Hogan and Su Yung, and after leaving the Undead Realm, Ali appeared to be possessed and began showing a darker side of her. Yes, I know this sounds insane, just follow, it's gonna get even more insane. Ali began teaming with Su Yung and was a heel once again. However, on the March 8, 2019 episode of Impact, Rosemary won a match in which if she won, she got possession of Ali. So now, Ali and Rosemary were aligned. However, Ali and Rosemary being aligned did not last long, as on the March 21st AEW Road to Double or Nothing episode, it was announced that Ali had signed with AEW, and if you put two and two together, you could kind of figure out it means Ali is out the door for Impact. So Impact decided to write her off in the most unique way possible, by killing her. On the March 29th episode of Impact, Ali and Rosemary travelled to the Undead Realm, where Rosemary found herself fighting for her life against a bunch of wrestlers, including Luchasaurus of all people, who was making a one-time appearance before he was even announced for AEW, whom of which Rosemary smashed with a pipe wrench, presumably killing him too. She then stabbed 2 masked men with a knife, and then slashed a bunch of undead brides in half with a knife. Yes, this is so ridiculous, and there's so much death happening right now. And it all comes to a climax when Su Yung is about to stab Rosemary, but Ali, the heroic, defiant, brave, loyal Ali, pushes her out the way and takes her herself, and she then bleeds out in Rosemary's arms and is presumed dead. And Ali has never been seen in Impact since. What on earth did I just watch? If you guys want to see my reaction to this, check out my Patreon. I've uploaded a video of me reacting to this for the first time, where I watch it and commentate over it and react to it. Link is in the description. So yeah, not only was Ali killed on this, so was Luchasaurus. This was before Luchasaurus even debuted in AEW. Impact hates AEW clearly. All jokes aside, I quite liked this. I love any cinematic form of wrestling, and this was just cool. Sure, it was goofy and over the top, and you probably clicked off when I began explaining it just because of how complicated it is. But overall, I liked it. It was just mad, and like I said, Luchasaurus being there just completely caught me off guard, which you can see in my reaction video. But that is the story of when two wrestlers, well, one wrestler properly, was written off indefinitely via death in TNA. Mickie James one was pretty crazy, but she somehow came back to life, and the Ali one was even crazier and just spooky and weird and fun. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. If you did enjoy, then be sure to smack that like button. Got loads more content on the way for you. I hope you're enjoying all the videos right now. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more TNA and wrestling content as a whole. Check out my Patreon, like I said. There's loads of exclusive stuff on there that you can check out, and it would really mean the world to me if you donated during these trying times. It would help me out massively. But thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe with notifications on. Follow me on Twitter at Topton Wrestling. My Instagram is at I'm Tom Bell. I'll see you all soon, guys. Goodbye, and keep on rolling.